Hi, this is my second attempt interviewing Lewis Prescott because someone forgot to record the video. Thank you very much for your patience. So, Lewis Prescott is a QA lead at SarahCare. He's also an instructor on Udemy with his course Next Level API Testing, Contract Testing for Microservices, as well as an instructor on Test Automation University with his course API Testing in JavaScript. But let's hear more about Lewis from Lewis himself. Welcome, Lewis.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm QA lead currently at SarahCare, which is a company who's bringing technology into the care industry, which is really exciting. I'm really excited about the journey that I'm going to go on there. And also, in my spare time, as I only work 4 days a week, I do consulting as a API testing, contract testing expert, and do some mentoring as well.
That's pretty cool that you get to help people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, first things first, the reason I invited you was to talk primarily about course creation. And I think you have some sort of unique experiences given that you have created courses on both Udemy and Test Automation University.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I'm curious about is what made you decide to create courses in the first place?
Yeah, so I wanted to share my knowledge, and at the time it was COVID. There wasn't really in-person meetups and stuff, and so I wanted to kind of share that knowledge, but in a more distributed way, and enable that. I kind of looked out for platforms, and Udemy seemed like a good one because I had used it in the past personally, and then it also kind of lots of people use it. So yeah, seemed like a good idea at the time.
Now, when you are in the planning period of creating a course, I imagine it can be a bit of a struggle to determine exactly what level you should target it at.
Yeah.
Bob Salmon on Twitter was curious as to how do you determine that level?
Yeah, it's a really difficult one. And at the start, I really wanted to pitch it at that kind of beginner level, someone who was just starting out with contract testing and wanted to get started and get them over that hump of getting started. But it's really hard to do that. And so when I shared it with my friends, they were like, I don't really have knowledge of this. I don't think I could get started with it without API testing background and a bit of knowledge about APIs. So yeah, I've put that all in the prerequisites, but I'm not sure if anyone's actually reading them or not. So the feedback that I get from the course is that it's a bit too advanced for some people, and some people want to go into more detail and specific sections, which I can't really deliver to everyone's needs, but it is what it is.
Hmm. And then you create the course and you put it out there, and then time passes.
Mm-hmm.
Ben Doan, the full stack tester from Twitter, was curious about how do you keep courses up to date?
Mm-hmm. So I haven't actually updated that course yet on Udemy. So I released it about 3 years ago, and I haven't updated it since. Um, so I created GitHub releases. So people should be able to pull down that specific release and pin the versions in the npm on Node and then on .NET as well. So they should be able to get the snapshot that I was using, and I tell them what version of Node I was using and everything like that. So they should be able to use it without any updates, but it is long overdue an update, so that will be coming soon.
All right. And when it comes to creating a course, there's what someone sees. So they see the activities you've planned. In the case of Test Automation University, there's the questions. And let's say you have like 1 to 2 hours of speaking time,
Mm-hmm.
but realistically, it probably took you a bit more than 2 hours. Like, you
Hmm.
can be honest with me. Like, it takes a bit more than that. Now, could you give us an idea of how much time you spent before you started creating the course, and then how much time you spent once you started creating the course, and then
Hmm.
even post-course creation effort?
Yeah, so with Test Automation University, there's that initial step with getting your course approved. So at the time, I was communicating with Angie Jones, and I sent her kind of the contents of the course and what each chapter would contain. So there's that back and forth, and coming up with that probably took a couple of hours, 2 to 3. And then there's the communication back and forth with editing the contents and remove this part, add this part in, all that kind of stuff. But once the course was approved and I started the creation process, then you're talking like 10 minutes worth of content probably took me about an hour to create. So
Wow, that's I mean, is that typical? Like, did you speak to other people who had created courses? Like, is that like a normal ratio?
I don't know whether that's normal or not, but if you take into consideration all of the components around the test automation one, is all of them have the same format. So they're all videos, they all come with a quiz at the end, and also there's the code that goes along with that piece of video. So when you're creating your course, you go through the exercise yourself, you then capture that code and you put it somewhere online. And then the quiz, you have to obviously really think about your questions to aim them at the right level so that someone achieves success when they finish that part of the course, and also not making it too easy that someone could just skip to the end and then uh, complete the course that way.
Yeah, I mean, you want someone to feel proud, and you also want people to actually learn things and not just have the certificate and not have actually earned it.
Exactly.
And then post-course creation work. So now
Mm.
you've created the course, it's live, it's been announced. What happens next?
Yeah, so on Test Automation University, they also do the transcripts, so they put that on there, um, and they do all the marketing for the course. But on Udemy, obviously, I've got to do the marketing myself. Though Udemy do all of the sales and the offers and all that stuff around your course, so they're always devaluing your course in a way. But it's
By devaluing, you mean like those offers where you have like 9.99 and
yeah,
limited
exactly,
time. Okay.
which are like all the time. So you get a percentage cut right from the sale, and they they're doing a lot of the marketing work. So it's like a transactional thing based on how much marketing effort they've put in is how much you get back. Obviously, if you're doing the marketing and you send a direct link to someone, then you get more of the cut. But um, yeah, so Udemy do a lot of that marketing work, but because the topic that I'm talking about is quite niche, a lot of my traffic comes from the stuff that I do.
So that means you're telling me that you're able to see how much how many customers or students you're getting through Udemy's efforts and how many you're getting through your own outreach or marketing efforts.
Not necessarily, I can't see that specifically, but through the value that I can see the revenue values at the end of the month.
Okay.
So I can see kind of how much I'm getting.
And you're talking a bit about marketing. Could you elaborate on what exactly you've been doing to market your courses?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've just basically posted my course on all of the content I have. So like in my blog, on my podcast, um, on README files for Pact and stuff like that. So yeah, I've basically just put it in all the places that people would potentially be looking for this information so that I can get it back to my course.
Sweet. And which avenues have you found to be more effective than others?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think my podcast has been the most active one, I think, and also raised my status. Like, I just interview people on the podcast, but ultimately I'm the one that's releasing this content. So I think that's kind of really raised my status level. And I'm getting quite a lot of activity through that. So yeah, I think that would be the highest one. But yeah, then I think having my course on Test Automation University also gives me that kind of recognition that I do kind of know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Now, you mentioned your podcast, and the thing with a podcast is you only have audio, you only have your voice and what you have to say to keep people interested. Uh, the, whereas on your course, you do have the aid of slides, for example.
Yeah.
AJ Paradith from Twitter was curious as to how you stop your voice from sounding monotone. Or that's my tip. It's only monotone. Or like, how do
Sounds
you
like a
keep it
robot.
engaged? I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. But how do you keep your voice engaging when you're just talking to slides for like 1 to 2 hours?
Yeah, I think it's hard to listen to your voice initially when you're doing a course because you hear your voice a lot through editing and through just repeating it. But the topic I chose, I was really passionate about, so I really wanted to share that information. So I hope that came across in the course. And also, when you have a script, you can easily fall into a monotone because you're just concentrating on delivering the words that are on the page. So I'd go through the chapter quite a few times so I could get comfortable with the script. And then once I was comfortable with the script, I would riff a bit in the course, but I think it made it a bit more authentic.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not speaking from the heart, but if you're not reading off a script, as you said, then it's going to sound more natural, more conversational, easier to
Yeah,
listen to.
for sure.
For people who are considering creating a course or thinking, I know a few people who created courses, I can do that.
Yeah.
What advice would you have for these people?
Yeah, I guess we touched on it earlier, right? Is the amount of time that you put into the course is much more than just recording a video and then releasing it online. There's lots of things that you need to think about. Um, but when I started my course, I didn't think about the marketing aspect. So I didn't think about at all who my target audience was and what problems they actually wanted to solve. So for example, on my course, it's an end-to-end journey of contract testing. But actually, that I've got three different kind of avenues that I could be targeting at. Could be targeting at front-end developers who are doing on contract testing. Could be targeting at back-end developers, and I could be targeting at testers who sit in the middle. Right. So I have three different audiences which have three different problems they want to solve. Whereas my course is end-to-end journey, so it's not not solving any of those problems. It's targeted at someone somewhere. So yeah, I think my advice would be really think about your marketing material up front, and then you can really tailor your course and produce your course that way.
Thank you. Now, if someone is rather curious about you and they want to see uh, which courses you've created, where to find them, or um, to find you on social media, your podcast, for example, how can people go about doing that?
hmm So my tag name is Pactman. So at pactman.co.uk, you can find all of my stuff, my blog, my podcast, and previous talks I've done. So you can find me there, or you can find me on Twitter, rambling on about API testing at Lewis Prescott. Or you can also find me on LinkedIn with my name, Lewis Prescott.
Sweet. Thank you very much for joining me. And I'll make sure to include what you just said on the description of this video below. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.